Hello everyone, so in this video I will be showing you how to install the virtual machine environment that we will be using throughout the course. So the first thing, a virtual machine is basically a machine running virtually inside your machine. So I'm sure you're all aware of what an operating system is. You're either using Windows, Mac OS, or Linux maybe. So having a virtual machine running inside our existing machine would mean that we can have like a Linux computer, kind of a virtual one, running inside our actual computer. And that's what we want to do, to have all the same Linux machines. We're obviously not going to ask you to buy new computers and have Linux installed on them, but we can ask you to install a virtual machine that and install Linux on it. So the virtual machine we will be using, all the tools are going to be free and open source. Actually, I think they are open source. I'm not 100% sure, but I know they are free. So the first thing we need to install is what's called the Oracle VM VirtualBox. So you can Google VirtualBox and you'll get that as the first one, Oracle VM VirtualBox. I will also be providing you with the links, or your teachers will be providing you with the links. So here, once you open the virtualbox.org or the Oracle VirtualBox, you can download VirtualBox. And this will get you to a page where you can see the VirtualBox binaries, and here you will have for different platforms, depending on whether you are on Windows or OS, like Mac or Linux distributions. So I am right now on Windows, and this is installing for me the executable file, so the virtualbox.exe. If we run this, this will run the installer, and then we can proceed with the installation. Everything here, we're just gonna keep the default features, and this is where it's being installed at. So it's in the program files, Oracle/VirtualBox. All of this looks good. We can create a start menu entry. We can create a shortcut on the desktop if we want. We can create a shortcut in the quick lunch bar. We can register file association. So all of these, we would want them. Actually, it's optional for you if you want the shortcuts, but I would keep all of them, and then you can always delete the shortcuts. So this is a warning that while you're doing the installation, you can be disconnected from your network. I will proceed with the installation and click install to begin the installation. You can allow for the permissions if you get asked. And the installation is done. It shouldn't take long, it took maybe around 10 seconds or 20 seconds for me. So once it's done, you can either select to start the Oracle VM and click finish, or you can unselect this and then it will not start it. But let's start the Oracle VirtualBox. So once it starts, we can see here, you will not have this because I probably had this before, and that's why I'm seeing it as Windows 10 VirtualBox. So you would not have this. You can go to the machines and add a new machine. Now the type for this would be Linux, and the version would be Ubuntu, so 64-bit Ubuntu. I'm gonna give this a name of Ubuntu, just like that. You can give it a name you'd like, and then I'm specifying next. And here you would, similar to your computers, it has RAM, right? And your computer might have 8 gigabytes of RAM, might have 16 gigabytes of RAM, and might have 4, but I would be advising you to buy a new computer as soon as you can if it has 4. So now here we're saying how much RAM we want to allocate to this virtual machine that we are running at. So I would give it maybe let's say 2 gigabytes or something around that to start with. And the next step is to specify how much of the hard disk we want to give it. So do we want to add a virtual hard disk? So the recommended size of the hard disk is 10 gigabyte. So I'm going to create a virtual hard disk now. So this is telling me what type of hard disk I want as file type. You would use the VDI, VirtualBox Disk Image, which is the automatically selected one. And here we're saying whether we want our hard disk, like this virtual hard disk, to have a fixed size, or do you want it to dynamically allocate the hard disk as it's using the space. So I would go to, so if you use fixed size, then it would take that space, and that would be the limit. So you kind of like that with the maximum fixed size. If you go out of, if you are trying to use more memory, you will, it's similar to how if on your computer you're having like limited amount of hard disk and you're trying to do more. There won't be any memory for it. Dynamically allocated means as much as it wants, it can keep on expanding as long as you have the space on your actual computer that is running this virtual machine. So we're going to have dynamically allocated here. And this is the starting size of the virtual hard disk. So we would keep it at 10 gigabytes. That should be good enough. And this is the name of this hard disk that is like the virtual hard disk that is getting created. So I'm just going to keep the default. So now this is my virtual machine and it's powered off. So I can start it. And now we obviously, like after all of the steps, you've realized maybe that we haven't actually downloaded Ubuntu or any operating system or anything. It's just a virtual machine tool so far. And we just specified what type it is, as like it's Linux and it's Ubuntu. So now it's asking us to select the startup disk, which we don't have at this point. So we'll need to download the Ubuntu startup disk. So to do that, we can simply Google Ubuntu download, and we'll get the first link, which is at ubuntu.com/download/desktop, and we will be downloading the latest one, 20.04.3 LTS. And in here they're asking us if we would like to donate, because this is open source. And this is a 2.9 gigabyte file, so this might take a bit of time. So now I have the file downloaded, and I put it inside a folder in my documents called Ubuntu, and here it is. It's a .iso file. It's a disk image file. So going back to the virtual machine, here I want to select the startup disk, and it's there's this folder in which I can browse for disks, or I can add disks. So I can add one, and I can search for it. And if I go to my documents, into the folder that I put it in Ubuntu, this is it, and I can select it. And now this would be the disk that will be used as the startup disk. And now once this is starting up, it's going to load the Ubuntu operating system. So you can see here it's already starting to load it. And now we get the install window in which we want to install Ubuntu. We don't just want to try it. So if you just want to try it, it means it's going to load the operating system from this disk that we specified without actually installing the operating system. So we want to install it. The language I specified is English. And here I'm going to leave everything as English. Continue. We're going to select a normal installation. sure we want to download the updates while installing Ubuntu. So continue. Now the nice thing about the virtual machine is going to connect to your network as well. Like if you're using the Wi-Fi or something, you can access it from the virtual machine. So now this is telling us that it's not finding any existing operating system, because sometimes you can install multiple operating systems on the same machine. So it would split the disk to have like part of it would be Windows, part of it would be Linux, for example. So in here, what I'm specifying is erase this disk and install Ubuntu. Now, when we're dealing with virtual machines, there's nothing to worry about because it's just a virtual machine contained within itself. Like we've allocated 10 GB for the hard disk, and that's it. Like even if things get screwed up, we can always just delete it and start over. So we're going to install now. Continue. And now this is asking us where are we. Let's specify Montreal. So I'm not sure what's the difference, but I don't think there's a difference, so I'm just going to pick this one. Continue. My name. So this is just setting up the computer, basically the operating system on this virtual machine. So we have to set up a password. It's a short password, but it's fine. I'm gonna set it to log in automatically and continue. So now that installation is completed, we get a small window like this saying installation is complete. You need to restart the computer in order to use the new installation. Now when we say we need to restart the computer, this is a small computer running virtually. It's not about your computer, it's about the virtual computer that is running. So it's going to restart the virtual machine and the virtual computer, and now we can press enter, because the disk is basically just a folder. It's like this is a file. It's not really a USB you're connecting or anything. That's asking us to remove it. And now we have basically the operating system loaded. So this is the VirtualBox. This is the window of our Linux Ubuntu computer. And we don't want an online account, so I'm going to skip that. Also going to skip that. I don't want to send system information. I'm not going to allow it to know my location. And I'm ready to go. So this is Ubuntu. It would be nice to just play around with it and start exploring it. It is similar to like the operating systems you've used already somehow. Like they all have a GUI, they all have applications. Firefox is the default web browser, so you can access it. And in the course, we will be I'll be giving you more instructions, and we'll be using this virtual environment a lot. You might get this software updater, so it would be good to update your software for this virtual machine. So I can like install everything. It's like 200 megabytes, and this will require my password. Make sure you use a password that you remember. And this will be installing. You can see here we have the software updater, and this is actually updating the software and installing the software. Now we can change the view here in the virtual box. We can do scaled mode, for example. Switch, and now the scaled mode is going to scale the window of the virtual machine based on this window. So this might affect the resolution because it's scaling everything, but can be useful. Depends on what monitor you're using or what size screen. Now, if we want to exit this scaled mode, we can do Control C, the right click, the right control with the C, not the left control. So right control with C, and it will close the scaled mode. So I hope this video was helpful, and we'll be giving you more instructions in the class.